Good morning, everybody. Today we are talking about the threat of high plains insanity. And when I talk about the high plains, I'm talking more about elevation, not about north versus south. So we've already been in the high plains as recent as yesterday, working eastern New Mexico into the Texas Panhandle. I consider the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, even western Kansas, eastern Colorado, all the way up to southern Alberta and Saskatchewan as the high plains. And it looks like the high plains, central and northern high plains season is definitely getting started early. Here's this massive trough that has taken over the western U.S. And you can see as it sits out there over the western U.S., it is going to peel off a couple of disturbances here on the east side. And instead of this system just ejecting and barreling into Tornado Alley, which would give pretty big outbreaks across the central southern portions of Tornado Alley, this thing is just going to sit out here as we have this split flow regime with another branch of the jet going way up northward into Canada. And this is just going to sit out there over the western U.S. and yield day after day of high plains insanity, starting as early as tomorrow across northeastern Nebraska, across northeastern Colorado into the Nebraska Panhandle, eastern Wyoming, maybe as far north as Montana as well. And then the next day looks like should be eastern Wyoming. Additionally, right now we are down in the Texas Panhandle. I wanted to stay down here just to see if an overnight complex of storms would leave behind an outflow boundary and lead to another significant day of severe weather today. But it looks like it is time to point the ship northward and start to head toward northeastern Colorado, western Nebraska there, eastern Wyoming. And it looks like that's going to happen starting as early as tomorrow. And then Friday also looks like a pretty substantial day up there as well. So I'm going to break down the models. Let me pull this thing up here. Finally got a good night's sleep last night after grinding all the way out to get out here to Tornado Alley in the first place. But made it out here. Got a couple of tornadoes. So here is the pattern as depicted by the NAM for Friday. And you can see that that's actually Saturday morning. So let's just go back a little bit to this morning. This is the morning NAM here. This, you can see our system still spinning around over northeastern New Mexico and southeastern Colorado. That's led us to these incredible supercell structure days. Beautiful mamadas on the backside, and even a couple of button tornadoes. So my plan now is to head northward and position for this trough. You can see it coming into western Washington there, Vancouver Island. This thing is going to continue to dig over the western U.S. and lead to our multiple days of high plains insanity. Now that we're getting within a couple of days of this event, confidence is beginning to increase in this pattern evolution. Storm Prediction Center already has a slight risk across northeastern Colorado, western the Nebraska Panhandle, and eastern Wyoming. Maybe it could be a Devil's Tower event on Thursday. So let's now look at 12 hours. This is at 0Z, and you can see some of that stronger flow starting to overspread here across eastern Wyoming, southeastern Montana, Nebraska Panhandle, northeastern Colorado even. So this is going to be the first day of high plains insanity, and the low-level jet out here in the higher elevations is usually at about 2 to 3 kilometers. So this is a 700 millibar wind due south at about 25 to 30 knots there. You can also see the upslope that happens. Well, it's harder to see here over the higher terrain of western Nebraska into southeastern Wyoming, but you'll most certainly at the surface have these easterly winds, easterly upslope winds there across southeastern Wyoming. There you can see some of those upslope winds. The NAM is already resolving an arc of supercell storms with apparent surface low across northern Wyoming, a 994 low up there. And you do have a pretty stout warm front that lifts all the way up into southeastern Montana here and western South Dakota, blows by the Black Hills. But you still have some pretty good backing throughout eastern Wyoming, down into northeastern Colorado, western Nebraska there. And this isn't necessarily your textbook high plains event, but it's one of those hybrids where you have deep pressure falls to the lee of the mountains. So you kind of have a combination of a traditional tornado alley event with the high plains. The most recent one that I remember from that was June 12th, 2017. Out there, Carpenter, Wyoming. There's a big tornado there in southeastern Wyoming. Torrington, Wyoming area had a wedge. So I think you're going to get an arc of supercell storms across eastern Wyoming. The dew points are a little bit low out there for Thursday. So this is definitely going to be an issue out there tomorrow, is that the dew points just aren't quite there for high plains insanity just yet. This is on Friday. You start to get those 50s dew points into the Nebraska Panhandle there. So I do think that Friday has some potential. There, you can see that energy helicity index, 0 to 3 kilometer EHI. That's 0 to 3 kilometer storm relative helicity in tandem with surface-based CAPE to kind of show you where the instability and the low-level shear are best co-located. And this is on Friday. But boy, on Thursday, even though this would be a big day, moisture is going to be an issue across eastern Wyoming, maybe across far northern Wyoming. Some moisture could bank up against the Sheridan, Wyoming area up there, up toward Billings. Could certainly be a threat of a supercell storm up there. But then it looks like eastern Wyoming mixes out until you get down into far northeastern Colorado, near the Ray area, up into Ogallala, Nebraska up there. Those areas, looks like the moisture is just a little bit better further south. But still, you get those 22-degree dew point spreads, almost an inverted V sounding there. Still might be doable, though. A lot of CAPE, and as well as a lot of dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, signifying the threat of some very large hail. Photographs are nicely shaped, and that's why you're likely going to have supercell storms out there, even if they are going to be initially high-based on your Thursday. And again, this is just the NAM. We'll look at the models leading up, but I think that there's going to be some serious moisture issues across eastern Wyoming and southeastern Montana, maybe a little bit further back, right banked up against that surface low. That 994 surface low does have some potential on Thursday afternoon. So definitely going to have to go pretty far north, I think, to get any decent moisture. But that's also where that stronger flow is located, across north central Wyoming into south central and southeastern Montana here. There's your CAPE axis greatest near this northeastern corner of Colorado, near Lake McConaughey, up into the Nebraska Panhandle. And we'll just have to see if storms can fire within this regime. They often do, even if they're not firing off the terrain. They'll usually develop out here over the high plains as you get those southeasterly winds getting forced up that topography. You can often initiate storms. Little confluence lines will exist out there as well. These are going to be south to north movers, north-northeasterly, so a large component to the north-northeast. I can see them initiating down near the Ray area and kind of evolving up toward Lake McConaughey. You can see that little dot right there is Lake McConaughey. Quite a bit of CAPE down there, at least, about 3,000 CAPE. This is far southwestern Nebraska. Decent hodograph as well. Your 0 to 3 kilometer SRH of about $1.70. Not bad out there for a high plains type setup. A little bit lower on your 0 to 1 kilometer shear there. But really in the high plains, you often get a flip around of those winds a little bit higher up. But in this case, this is a bit of a different setup, as you don't really have those easterly surface winds. You kind of have a south-southeasterly profile. But I do expect there to be some more backed winds, maybe even a little bit further north across portions of the Nebraska Panhandle. The 3 kilometer NAM might be a little bit more effective at resolving some of those terrain features. And sure enough, look what it does in the Nebraska Panhandle there. Probably going to get some pooling of that moisture. Scotts Bluff looks like a very good target. Heading back up into Dan Fitz territory up there. Up into the Nebraska Panhandle. Maybe get a Goonie burger up there in Scotts Bluff. Sounds like a good burger to get. It won a lot of awards in Nebraska, and I had one myself when I was up there getting a new windshield the other day. But this one shows a little bit higher resolution. Shows these 20-degree dew point spreads in the Nebraska Panhandle. A little bit more of a southeasterly component to those low-level winds. A very compact photograph on Thursday, but still enough with some storm relative winds there, storm relative shear. Your 0 to 3 kilometer SRH of about 125, but more than enough deep layer shear. About 30 knots, a little bit greater than 30 knots out there, so there definitely is some potential for some supercell storms up near Sterling, up along the I-80 corridor there as well in the Nebraska Panhandle. See what we got for dew points on the trusted 3 kilometer NAM. Mid-50s dew points here in the Nebraska Panhandle, so you're going to be talking about 20-degree dew point spreads up there. It does mix out down here in the Texas Panhandle all the way north, but then once you get way up here in the Nebraska Panhandle, those surface temperatures are a little bit lower up there, well, about 80 degrees. So you're going to be about 25-degree dew point spreads on Thursday. But that can happen still in the high plains. You can still get tornadoes with that. 30 knot, 25 to 30 knots at 500. It is borderline in terms of a bulk shear sense, at least here on Thursday. But on Friday, we should ramp that up quite a bit. You do get a little bit greater bulk shear further west into southeastern Wyoming. So maybe the I-80 corridor is the one to play for Thursday. And look at the next day on Friday. Look at all this flow at 500. It is quite meridional, but if you can bring those surface winds over to an easterly direction, then you can get a lot more shear. And look at that on Friday, folks, across northeastern Colorado. Backs quite a bit more there at the surface. So with those meridional storm motions, this looks pretty big with those southeasterly winds at the surface. Some things are going to have to... And I don't like using the HRRR out here in the high plains either. It overmixes dew points. It's not a very good model. I see it as almost a trash model here in the high plains. It's really good in traditional Tornado Alley and the Mid-South, but out here in the high plains, it'll often mix out those dew points a little bit too much. So this is on Friday. Look at these supercell storms evolving to 3 kilometer NAM, already showing those up near the I-80 corridor in the Nebraska Panhandle on Friday. So Friday looks to me like it could easily be a tornado day up here in far northeastern Colorado, Nebraska Panhandle, down throughout eastern Colorado. Let's take a look at our good old composite index here. 0 to 3 kilometer EHI, kind of showing you roughly where that favorable environment is for those tornadoes just over this northeastern Colorado area. I like to use the 0 to 3 kilometer indices. Or 0 to 3 kilometer shear. Approaching 200, a little bit greater down near the I-70 corridor, but I expect that we'll see some better 0 to 1 kilometer shear here in southeastern Wyoming. That's enhanced by northerlies, as you can see on, well, no it is not, but 38 dew point there. It's doing some weird things over southeastern Wyoming. Behind the dry line there. So here you can see this moisture, 60 plus, working its way into the Nebraska Panhandle, and you might verify this moisture further west into southeastern Wyoming. So keep an eye on this moisture being able to pivot back into southeastern Wyoming like this could easily happen. But boy, it looks like the 3 kilometer NAM is beginning to hone in on this area, northeastern Colorado, southern Nebraska Panhandle there. You can look at 500. The flow increases dramatically between Thursday and Friday here across the high plains. 55 knots, or 60 knots out there at 500, ejecting across the high plains of eastern Colorado into western Nebraska there. Looking at 850, you can see that flow near the ground or just above the ground out here. Probably more of a 500 meter or 1 kilometer type of a wind out of the southeast. So I do think that Friday looks like a pretty big day, and we'll probably have several days of high plains insanity out here to storm chase, work this environment. Let's look at a forecast sounding out near the Sterling area in Colorado for Friday. Looks a little wonky. A lot of dry air, though, just above the ground. Look at all this cape. Big hail producers are going to be almost a certainty. We got to get a little bit closer to Friday before we can really pin down how this will evolve. Just for fun, let's watch how low the dew points are going to be on the HRRR on Thursday. And that'll just throw it in the... oh, that's Thursday. So look what the HRRR does to those dew points across the Nebraska Panhandle and eastern Wyoming. 30s out there. Probably over mixing, so you're probably going to see dew points in the 50s in the Nebraska Panhandle on Thursday. I'm pretty certain about that. But really, the HRRR says to target east central Colorado, maybe near the Ray area up there, maybe near that corner of Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas, maybe up toward Lake McConaughey. But really, north of that, the HRRR mixes out those dew points dramatically. Eastern Wyoming, Nebraska Panhandle, western South Dakota. Sometimes the HRRR can be right for the wrong reasons, and it'll show you where those storms will initiate. It looks like even with those low dew points across eastern Wyoming, up near the Black Hills, up near Newcastle, there could be a high base storm up there. But really, it initiates that storm because it has to. It's in an environment of 30s dew points out there, but really you're going to probably see close to a 50 dew point on Thursday afternoon up into the Nebraska Panhandle and southeastern Wyoming. Maybe pushing the upper 50s, though, down nosing into Ray up near that corner, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska. But it does look like Thursday could be the day before the day. I think there's going to be some high base storms near this area. And then on Friday, that flow ramps up. You get another day of moisture return, and we should see those dew points rocketing into the 50s across northeastern Colorado. Looks like my computer's about to die. I got to plug it in here, folks. Before we look at the NAM, look at it a little bit further out. There's that Thursday 994 low. Gizmo's snoring back behind me. Really, that low is near the Wyoming-Colorado border right there. That's the extension of the low, and that should wrap those winds back to the southeast. So I expect there to be moisture transport into southeastern Wyoming here. I bet we'll see the 50s dew points up there, southeastern Wyoming, southern Nebraska Panhandle, far northeastern Colorado. A lot of backed winds pulling that moisture up against the terrain. It's like another day of high plains insanity across eastern Colorado with those backed winds getting forced up the terrain on Saturday too. Yeah, setting the stage for a weekend full of high plains insanity. Look at this bowling ball of an upper level system out there. A lot of cold air as well associated with that. Probably some snow in the mountains. There's that bowling ball, almost a comma shape to this low, spitting off impulse after impulse and jet streak on its eastern side over the high plains. Allergies are so bad out here from all that dirt, sucking in that dust for days. Look at these 35 to 40 knot winds over eastern Colorado. Look out, folks. High plains insanity, northeastern Colorado for days. That Mexican restaurant to the south of Ray is going to be packed with storm chasers. Mark my words on that. And each day kind of being more substantial than the previous one. Eastern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, Nebraska Panhandle here. 0 to 3 kilometer EHI kind of telling the story. And you'll have better moisture each day as it's pulled back to the northwest. Look at that, 77 over 58 in eastern Colorado. That's just insane. High plains insane. Low level jet there, 1 to 2 kilometers in excess of 40 knots over eastern Colorado. Big Cape. A little bit of a capping inversion, preventing storms from going up all over the place. Nice elevated mixed layer, steep lapse rates aloft. And your 0 to 3 kilometer SRH increasing above 200 out there by Friday. Let me plug in my computer before it dies. Woo! Usually in the morning I deal with some allergies, just how things go. So I think Saturday looks like the best day right now. And we could look at the ensembles and do an assessment of confidence. But look at that on Saturday, how poorly the GFS handles that terrain and the moisture. Doing a similar thing that it was all year in the Southern Plains, even though it's got some good 50s dew points here across eastern Colorado. That's why I like to use the 3 kilometer NAM and the wrap for the high plains. The HRRR over mixes. There is a difference in the shape of that trough, and that subtle difference in the shape between the NAM and the GFS there. GFS is a little bit slower, almost a subtle negative tilt. Doesn't bring as much flow over eastern Colorado in the mid-levels of the troposphere. And then you go over to the NAM, and you get a lot more flow over eastern Colorado with that subtle wobble. Almost a double-barreled vort here. But those subtle differences are going to make a big difference on how active it is for tornadoes across eastern Colorado and southeastern Wyoming. And we do have quite a discrepancy between the shape of that system, with the GFS kind of having a single vort in the middle and the NAM having more of a double vort, which will give that thing a bit of a wobble out there. Well, oh, look at that on Sunday. Oh, holy cow, you got to be kidding me. Look at that trough ejection, folks. Wow. That's eastern Colorado, northeastern Colorado, eastern Wyoming, Nebraska Panhandle. High plains insanity right there. And this isn't your usual high plains insanity in the late season where you get kind of subtle zonal flow over the high plains, post-frontal environments, easterly winds. That's how we had a lot during 2018-19. Now you've got a big trough ejecting. So this is kind of a combination of those high plains setups where you get easterlies up to 2 kilometers before they flip around to southwesterly. But it also looks good on the synoptic scale with this trough ejecting. Very similar to that June 12th, 2017 event across eastern Wyoming. Maybe that was July 12th. Can't even remember. Still waking up. And then the system lifts up into Canada, big time ejection. And then we should get this trailing ribbon in the jet stream in the long term, which I think will still close out there. You can see these troughs. Tendency in general for a western U.S. trough to evolve. Another system. So the Southern Plains severe weather season is certainly not over. It's still May, and we're going into late May. And usually these subtle perturbations like this, these short waves ejecting across the Southern Plains, lead to the biggest severe weather events out there. And this is a long way out in the future, but it goes to show you that the Southern Plains season is by no means over. And it actually looks like there are some tendencies in the long-range models to have another system in the Southern Plains. And this is way out here, but it looks like even the Midwest severe weather season could get going toward the end of May. But again, this is fantasy land out there. And fantasy land is getting a lot closer, it seems like. We used to be able to be pretty reliable in the 7 to 10 days, but now as models are getting more and more high res, anything can happen. Look at this, guys. Long range near June 1st. We're looking at high plains insanity for a long time. Look at this jet. A little bit of a ridging up here, but eventually this will break down. And seeing a strong jet, and I think we're going to have a very active mid to late season. Even the European in the long range toward the end of May is showing this general trough across the western U.S. Strong flow downstream, central northern plains type action there. Pretty far south jet. So I think that we're going to have a later season here near June 1st. I think Southern Plains season is by no means over, and the European agrees with that in the long range. I just try to look for general patterns and that whatnot. We're just looking at the long range for fun here, just rambling. When I'm storm chasing, I go to sleep so tired, wake up right in the morning. I don't necessarily have as much time to prepare for these, so I just kind of do these briefings as I'm looking at it in real time here. This is what I'd be normally doing solo, just looking at the next steps. But I think Sunday looks like a big day. That's nasty right there, folks. So it's going to be an active weekend across the high plains. Saturday looks like eastern Colorado. The GFS is horrible at resolving the terrain. Wave-like coordinates. I like to use the NAM. High-resolution NAM is a good way to resolve that terrain. And we'll just have to wait and see. But I think Saturday for the 3-kilometer NAM, you're going to suddenly see bullseyes all up and down eastern Colorado in those indices. The 0 to 3 kilometer EHI, 0 to 3 kilometer storm relative helicity out there. Friday, you're really starting to see that moisture get pulled westward across the high plains. 55, 56 dew point is big time in May in eastern Colorado. See what the Storm Prediction Center has. It's got a slight risk up here. 2% tornado. So this is kind of the day before the day, but still good to get up there, get into position. And then I think Friday, we could even see an enhanced risk out here. Saturday looks big in northeastern Colorado, maybe even southeastern Wyoming. Sunday as well, big ejection of that trough across this same area. So it looks like many days of high plains insanity ahead. And it's time for me to hit the road and start heading north toward the high plains. One of my favorite areas to chase out there. And I think I'm better at forecasting these high plains events than anything else. It's because of my obsession with these things. So thank you everybody for joining me for my weather report this morning. I'm going to be heading north to focus on high plains insanity. Day after day of high plains insanity through Monday, it looks like. And then that system's going to eject, lift up to the upper Great Lakes. Never stop chasing.